Think we are streaming. We are live. It is coming in. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you got your. I'm gonna kick it off with a toast. Dang, here's the go. And I think with that, we are officially live. Welcome everybody again to another edition of the Culture Convo, the Hip Politics Happy Hour. You've got your host here, Mr. Cameron Calvin, aka Mr. Hip Politics, host of the Hip Politics podcast. As you can see, I've been playing around with different setups in my house, trying to figure out like what's the best look. So I'm going with the shelf bookcase look today because I feel like a lot of people do that. It makes you look like more of a family man. But we're here with another edition, the Political Digital Double Down. I wanted to get together a group of very talented and very experienced people in the digital media, digital marketing, and digital creative space, especially with the eye toward politics. Obviously, as we're all locked down, so many different campaigns, organizations have had to completely adjust their field programs, had completely adjust their outreach strategies, or had to, if they were already a digital strategy, they're probably doubling down on it. So that means there's a lot of money going to be moved. There's a lot of learnings that need to be had, consumer habits, how are we really going to get people from online to physical activation and making sure they're voting, making sure they're registered, making sure they're turning out, and making sure they're properly informed, and how is that money going to be spent, and spent both with information and misinformation. Like, it's just a very complicated world. So I got some experts, people who know it even better than myself. So we're going to kick it off. First, we're going to kick off a cheers to everybody. Health, happiness, happy Thursday. But with that, I am going to kind of throw the first general question out to everyone, is, do you think we are now moving, will the digital political landscape ever be the same after this? I'm curious to because you guys are all like some futurists. You're not just what's happening right now, but this is going to shape how things are done in this campaign and moving forward. I'm curious to where you see the digital political landscape going toward the future. Anybody? Don't all jump in one.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quickly. So I don't think the political landscape will be the same, if not ever again, certainly not likely in our lifetime. But I think the same goes for most landscapes. I think that one of the things that, sort of we've seen sort of with our clients and sort of just the larger digital marketing and sort of brand space is that consumers, when they are really tested with actually important life crises and moments, really require brands and people and organizations that are reaching out and trying to engage them to cut through a lot of the fat and get directly to the way that they can impact someone's life. And I think in a lot of ways, we've seen just in a matter of weeks how this, particularly on the Democratic primary side, what was expected to be a sort of extended process has been reduced to a couple very quick, CNN.com push notifications. And it's like, okay, we have our candidate and, we're going forward. All of the endorsements have come out and, we know kind of who's going to be facing off hopefully in November. And so I think it really requires brands and elected officials or people seeking office to be even more deliberate and specific about what they can do and how they can be helpful to people in really measurable, tangible, impactful ways.
Ruiyong, I wanted to ask you, especially like Ruiyong and Abdul, both of you all from different, Abdul, you more on the consumer side as working with Tom Steyer's campaign, being his deputy campaign manager, and how much money he poured into the digital social media marketing and outreach space. I mean, his social media ads last summer to gain votes and just ask for people for $1 just so he can to make the stage was something we had probably never really had seen in that space. But then Ruiyong on the purchasing side of paid marketing, like, are people really shifting their budgets? And now, I mean, they're definitely having to shift their budgets now, but I'm just curious where that energy and where that money is now going to be, and that focus, both on campaigns, both on the people doing the campaigns, and like I said, for the Hub project, the ones that are out there paying for these campaigns.
I'll say, Cam, that the digital landscape is never going to be the same after this. Having to push everything to to digital tools and platforms, and trying to identify, target, and get people to organize and turn out. I guess the big question is how soon do you start a digital ad campaign for a national campaign? Because traditionally right now, folks would be building out state organizations, for folks in the field. You will start to be developing that infrastructure. Well, you can't do that at this point because you put people at risk health-wise. So, just going in and moving money, one, if you have money, for folks that, are cash strapped, the ability to do a comprehensive digital campaign may be out of reach for some. So one, for folks in that situation, how do they do it where the economics make sense, to where they can actually touch and target people and accumulate some data? Because data at this point is going to be so key in being able to organize, because you can't do an event, depending on which state you're in, more than 10 people or 2 people. So it's going to be critical for you to be able to touch people where they are. But how do you do that across the different platforms? I think Zoom and Facebook, YouTube, they all offer various opportunities to organize. But depending on who you are and your name recognition, how can you organize people in those tools? Because traditionally you would go where the people are. And then in this type of atmosphere, you can't do that. So how do you attract people to you? I think it's going to be a question that we all have to figure out and ask. And even it's going to be challenges for people even with big name recognition, because everybody has other concerns right now.
Yeah, I would add on to that and say, coronavirus definitely accelerated change and innovation in the political digital space. And I think, at least I am, and I think a lot of other people are sort of trying to stress test our assumptions about what works. How do we make creative that's engaging without having to get everyone together on a shoot? And how do we sort of relate to people and drive interaction when everyone's isolated and like in their own living rooms, right? To your question, and I think that's something that we've had to grapple with as an organization across our programs too. Can we still drive our message? Or how do we do that when everyone is just getting wall-to-wall coronavirus coverage? And is anything else going to break through if we spend money to run an ad, right? So I think that's one thing we're thinking about. But I think it's also an opportunity, at least on the digital side, where a lot of the traditional advertisers aren't spending money right now for some of those reasons. So, media is relatively speaking a little cheaper than it was before. And so thinking
when you say media, you mean like the traditional, like the TVs and the radios are now lowering their prices to try to
the digital platforms that are auction based. A lot of them are a little cheaper than they were before because there's a little less competition. And everyone's watching. I think evening news was up 23% or something, local evening news. Digital social is up in terms of media consumption. So thinking through how to use that to our advantage to push through sort of that progressive message. Because I think coronavirus is a pandemic, but it's also related to a lot of the policies that are
it is. There's to that point, you brought up something in terms of breaking through, and then I think that and stress testing that the creative side of I think this is an opportunity, at least from my standpoint, this is an opportunity to try a lot of different things and be actually even more innovative and creative. I know David and Shanta and Steve, you guys are all come from a very creative digital space. What are you seeing it now in terms of this being an opportunity for creatives to kind of win, like especially if you can create something digital that can be engaging, that can break through when we got wall-to-wall Corona?
Actually really excited about the opportunity right now. I focus primarily on Black people. And so Black folks, we're so creative. We always bring culture to our organizing. And I would actually say people, although there is no field anymore on campaigns, we're still going to the people because people are now online, right? Like they've always been online, but now it's even spending even more time online. I'm really excited for the Black organizers who did not see themselves as digital organizers before, maybe because it's been a white space and white dominated, but now they're being like introduced to different ways, different tools, different technology that allows them to organize online. So I'm really excited about it. I think we're gonna see a huge shift as far as like deepening organizing online because people are going to be bringing more meaningful, culturally relevant content to the table as far as politics goes. Not saying that it wasn't there before. I mean, you have your Amber Phillips, like different just natural digital content creators online that have been kind of blending culture and digital organizing from jump. But I think now it's going to be more, even more embedded into structural strategy with political campaigns.
Steve, what kind, or Steve or Dave, I mean, what kind of trends or what kind of creative, I'm curious from both of you, like just what kind of creative risks do you think are being taken right now in this kind of political landscape?
I mean, from what I'm seeing, you know, right now with folks, you know, everybody staying home and social distancing, folks are really looking for any opportunity they can get to actually engage with people and have some kind of semblance of like that person-to-person interaction. And so you see so much more of these live social media engagements through like Facebook Live, Instagram Live, et cetera, people really looking for new ways to connect. And so like, for example, at my job at the Motion Picture Association, like before the crisis hit, one of the main aspects of what we did was kind of serving as like a convening space for creators. Like we'd have a lot of movie screenings with panel discussions and Q&As with actors and filmmakers and folks behind the camera. And so next week, we're gonna have our first virtual event. You know, we started this thing in February called Film School Friday, where we would bring in like local high school students in DC to connect them with like creators and folks in the film industry. And so we're gonna be in April, sorry, not April, April 24th, pushing that as a virtual event. Because you've got kids at home and parents who are looking for fun and educational ways to engage them, teachers looking for resources for their students who are at home. And so just not in any one space, I think we're seeing across the political space in actual organizations and companies, brands everywhere, folks are really just looking for those opportunities to engage live with people in any capacity. And so that's really the main trend that I've seen is just the huge uptick in those live engagements. People just need that interaction.
My bad. I should know this by now. On your side, running a creative agency, and I know you worked with a lot of campaigns over the last couple cycles, so you've had experience. I'm pretty sure, like testing different creatives that work for specific markets and specific audiences. But now, are you seeing like a new? Now that there's been a double down, like are you guys even pushing that even further, or are people going toward their more traditional, like I know this works, so I'm just going to pour money into that? Like what kind of trends or creative trends are you seeing?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I'll echo what David said. You know, there are, you know, most organizations and brands are looking for ways to try to have some actually authentic and like measurable engagement with folks during a time where we cannot be or shouldn't be in rooms together. So obviously, you know, the social channels that we've been using are areas or spaces that people are really doubling down on and flooding. But, you know, we're also really trying to push our clients and partners to sort of work with us or allow us to work with them as a strategic partner to really see what some of the boundaries are. We have a lot of clients who do major national conferences and big time experiential programming, you know, and they have sponsors who they are trying to still, you know, instill some confidence and not pull out those dollars. And so we're really trying to think about, you know, dynamic ways. I think one of the real cool opportunities, you know, we're thinking about, obviously we're using, you know, Zoom now, and like Zoom is playing such a huge role in everybody's life, particularly on the professional side, and then even just, you know, like family gatherings. But, you know, one of the things we're really trying to explore is how do we really up and enhance the production value of a digital convening or sort of live stream social content, right? So
find out. Can you let me know? Because I'm trying
yeah,
to.
yeah, you'll be the first on the list, man. You know, so there are like a bunch of cool platforms. You know, we're messing around with this thing called like Wirecast, where you can do like interesting branding over stream content. And, you know, because if you think about, you know, a sponsor who's coming in at $100,000, you know, they may not feel the same level of value or be as excited about the IG live conversation as they would being in a room with 1,000 people sitting at a, you know, in a ballroom. And so how do you elevate kind of the quality of that with really high production value, but also in a way that it really expands the reach of, you know, who you can potentially engage. So those are some of the things we're playing with, you know, kind of both on the political side and then also, you know, with the brands and like foundations, organizations that we work with.
I wanted to that point, because I wanted to ask Crystal this. I know you're over at Priorities USA, another organization that is about physically mobilizing people in addition to having, I mean, you guys do have a digital presence and move people in through text and other ways. But how, something Abdul brought up is that data. Like a lot of these, like how are we turning these online conversations into these online conversations and online engagement into physical actions? Because you guys are about really getting certain ballot initiatives passed, supporting certain campaigns. Like I feel like it's a big grand experiment until the fall. We know now that we kind of have a nominee. The primaries are not there's not as much emphasis on the remaining primaries, but at least on the national level. But then there's still so many local seats in local primaries that still very much so matter. But we really are going to see there's a big national experiment in the fall. But I'm curious how you guys are translating this now digital focus into a physical focus. Like Crystal, and I would love Ruiyong to kind of talk about that in terms of, because I know the Hub Project does a lot of physical activation and moving in addition to the digital. But for Crystal, what do you?
Yeah, sure. So we run digital ads. I mean, I think that's pretty clear about what our like main focus and mission is of our organization. And what we're trying to do is really help build the capacity of groups that are on the ground, particularly in the key battleground states. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, and someone could even say North Carolina or Arizona. But folks are having to shift from their traditional field programs to digital programs where it didn't exist. And paid media is not the easiest thing to just pivot to. It's not like you can, pivoting from doors to phones or from doors to texting, that's one thing, but pivoting to a paid media program is so much more nuanced. And so we're trying to, well, not even trying to, what we're doing, we're assisting organizations with free media training. So we're moving our in-person 4-day paid media trainings that we've been doing going around the country. And so we're making that an offering online so that organizations can begin really learning how to media plan, really learning how to target on Facebook using Google Ads, how to put their media plans or run digital ads on YouTube or Spotify, and many of the different social platforms where people are actually surfing day to day. And so we're doing a lot of the back end support for these organizations.
How do they tap into that? How do those organizations even know to tap into that? Because I think that is to your point, that's a valuable service. And
yeah, so if you go to our website, priorities.org, there is a link on our website. I'm not exactly sure where, but I'm happy to provide that information. Our first online offering will be in May. And I can, connect folks with our training team because, like I said, they've transitioned from in-person to online courses now. But there are also 2 tools that are up right now. How to create a media plan. That's something that I can send out and share. And the other one I cannot remember off the top of my head right now, but I can follow up after this live. But that's something that we want more people to do digital. People don't know how to do it. People sometimes think, oh, I know how to boost an ad on Facebook. And while that's, cool, that's not necessarily paid media. That's just, you putting up a flyer or something, that's eye-catching and you boosting it on Instagram or Facebook, but that's not actually planning it out, looking at targets, and targeting people that it needs to reach.
Ruiyong, did you become the most important person at the Hub Project in the last month?
I would not say that, no. I mean, I think, to echo something that a lot of folks have said is trying to find creative ways to make it work on digital when it was going to be a physical event or gathering. We recently had, we were going to launch a bus tour right at the end of March, but obviously that didn't end up happening because of coronavirus. So we've turned it into a virtual town hall series, tried to make it still local and custom to the geography and sort of stories that we were going to highlight anyway, because even though a lot of people can access it just by clicking a link, we still wanted it to feel grounded in sort of the environment that we were going to be in for that bus stop. But obviously we've had to make other changes, like relying more on sort of SMS or relational organizing to sort of get people to engage. And of course, finding ways to up our paid media in ways that feel more personal. I think, a lot of times if you blast a 30-second spot at people will pay attention for a little bit, but I think there's other tools in our arsenal that we want to employ, like using micro-influencers.
Micro-influencers. To that point about think both through micro-influencers and to your point that you a few of you made it like that authentic voice, or being able to personalize that digital experience. Like, I'm curious with I know David, you've had a lot of experience in this, and Abdul working with a presidential candidate. I would say for anything, Tom Steyer, I felt I got to see him a lot to where it's well, I think I know at least a part of this guy, because he used his online tools and his online engagement to kind of help personalize and find that authentic voice. Talk to me about doing better digital advertising, because it does require some kind of personalization. It requires customization, something that where it's in to be authentic. You've got to find that authentic voice.
Yeah, so I think Tom came across authentic because he is authentic. I think part of it is just who the person is genuinely, and that can, you can see that in person. I would say sometimes it's harder to translate into the digital spaces because you can't see body language digitally, depending on how you do or create content. But I will say that, for us, we had a lot of wiggle room because we weren't resource poor. We had a lot of opportunities to create and come up with different avenues of content. We had a pretty huge digital team across the campaign. So, I would say that we were an exception and generally not the rule. So when it comes to that creative, I think that a lot of the other campaigns may not have the opportunity to create a lot of different content and be as creative, because sometimes you can put something out and it just, if you don't have the ability to test messaging and things like that to see what works out, and you just put something out there, it may turn people off, may turn people on. So some folks may not have an opportunity to do a lot of creative because, we're going to be in an oversaturated digital market. Everybody's going to be competing for eyeballs at this point. And so how do you break through all of this other competing content, from the consumption side, from the campaign side, and then two, the hard part also, I think, with digital which is much different from the traditional field organizing, is that it's hard to tell, does a digital ad turn into an action, turn into a vote? Whereas we have some empirical data that shows, when you meet someone face to face, you make a phone call, those are your two best opportunities to get someone to take a particular action. So, in this space, I think this is this is unprecedented. So I think we're gonna make a lot of mistakes. I think we're gonna learn a lot of lessons out of this, but I think that once we crack the code to the digital space, we're never going back to things the way things were. Because just the digital age in general, it's just a lot of there people are actually budgeting for some digital ad space, and you see the type of the content that are on platforms now. So yeah.
You think budgets in general are going to reflect this moving forward, both in the political space and companies, organizations are like, now when I look at my advertising budget, like we've always said they're going toward mobile and people understand like we're engaging in mobile more in more digital space, but now is TV ads, do you think TV spending is going to go down or OTT is going to go down? I'm curious about that.
I think that depends on revenues. A lot of that is interdependent of one another. Wherever people are is where the money is going to flow. So that'll be people watching television, that'll be people online. Depending on how long we're, stuck in the house, I think that question will be answered. I think no one can foresee. However, we just lost 20 million jobs in America. At least from my time on the Hill after going through the Great Recession, is that a lot of those people aren't going to go back to work. To be able to employ that many people in a short period of time is going to be challenging. So I anticipate that there will be a lot of people at home or in some type of telework situation. And so therefore you may see a prolonged period where people are at home. And so I anticipate that, paid media on television and in a digital space should start to uptick, but that also depends on revenue because you got to make money to be able to spend money.
Curious, anybody else's thoughts on like where these budgets and where this focus is now shifting now that we've had, like you said, whether we're locked down for a month or another 2-3 months, like, well, eventually these eyeballs are still locked into our phone, locked into our computers. I'm very, but maybe with Steve or Encheta, like especially being a consultant, what are you telling your clients now that they should be doing it as because people are now having to project, like we're coming up on the fiscal planning for 2021, fiscal 2021. This would be that natural business cycle. So people are looking at, like you said, reduced revenue for 2020, campaigns that are going into their like the key season, headed into the November election. Like people are really looking at those budgets. I'm curious to what people are advising at this time.
Definitely. So because I'm a consultant and I just work for myself, I definitely thought that there was going to be a dip, like a slow in the contracts that I take on. But with digital, because it's so necessary, a lot of folks have been reaching out and trying to shift that money over to more robust digital program. I will say, I think from what I've seen so far, historically, a lot of times with campaigns, whether they're like electoral or C4, it really focuses on either getting someone elected or getting a policy passed or getting something on the ballot, right? With COVID, what I'm seeing is a lot of folks are stepping back from that and shifting to direct service work. So Crystal and I we're working with Mask for the People, which just received a really nice donation from Jack Dorsey on our Twitter. You see Color of Change doing a lot of direct service work as far as making sure folks have access to the resources that they need during this time of crisis. I think the good part about that is it no longer puts service work into a silo as like work over there that people do, but it allows you to see like, even in the midst of crisis, there are injustices. We see the disparity of Black folks dying of COVID right now because of so many health injustices going on. And you can't really separate electoral from policy from direct service work. And because of that, I think moving forward, we're going to see a lot of that blended even more. I think, you know, after, I would say, just because it's been in my political timeline, but after the Obama campaign, I saw a lot of folks doing more C3, C4 work, but I think we're going to see that even more now moving into next year as people prepare. Because things really aren't going to change. I mean, things are going to change, but it's not going to go back to what it used to be.
I think to your point, Abdul and Shanta, like the fact that so many people are out of work, there's no way you can just get them all immediately right back into the job market. But those people are now have eyeballs, and hopefully they have at least enough money to continue to pay a phone bill or to continue to pay a cable bill to get the Wi-Fi that they need or to get the cable that they need. So I'm just curious, like that whole interdependent, like are there still those eyeballs? Can people afford to even have that attention? But David, you work over at the, like I said, the Motion Picture Association, and I think now more than ever, celebrities, Hollywood, movies, like, I mean, well, not movies, celebrities, Hollywood, people, influencers are, everybody's jumping on live. So that's it. I think it's almost feels like a little bit of fatigue. I'm curious to like working in such a, obviously the entertainment industry and working where it is about engaging people on screens, engaging people there. Like, are you all looking at this now? I'm very curious about the strategy and the shift there, because the industry is shut down for the most part right now. No movies are being shown, none are being shot. But now you've got a bunch of stars and people with followings who could mobilize or who could advertise and who could find engaging ways. But are you helping any of those on an individual level or on a studio level to find ways for them to stay engaged with their customers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really unique time, to say the least, because, you know, across the industry, you have so many productions of TV shows, of films. You know, everything is really just shut down. Obviously, movie theaters are closed across the country. People's movie-going habits are really drastically changing. There's a huge shift to streaming content these days, and so there's so much also unknown as to when things are going to actually open back up and people are going to be able to not just go to the movies, but when productions are actually going to be able to get kickstarted again. And so, you know, we've seen a lot of like late night TV hosts and folks really shifting to just their own produced content. You've got like Trevor Noah with the daily social distancing show, or Conan and Stephen Colbert really recording things on their iPhones. Like it's a different time. There's a lot more user generated content now. And as far as how celebrities are using their platforms, there is definitely, I think, a bit of fatigue of just what we've seen in like celebrity culture, and how influencers are kind of showing off their lives while there are so many people that are struggling, and, you know, the health and human toll of this. And so really, from my perspective, it's really about being smart and understanding how to use your platform to actually help others and not just try to have a fake show of solidarity. If anything, like, oh, look at me, I'm social distancing too in my huge mansion. Like it's not the same. So how do you really use those platforms to engage people in a way that's meaningful? And so really just being smart about it. But there's so much unknown at this point that we're just really trying to figure out what it looks like moving forward.
I think the other part of digital that we haven't talked about as much, but people are engaged in their phones, is the text messaging, like SMS and text messaging, like that. Now, while we are all Zooming and doing the social media things, I mean, like we're even more by our phones. I've been seeing reports like even more, like the mobile use obviously is increased. increasing during this time. I'm curious, like how is this shift in the landscape and with us being locked down, and as people are looking not just budget wise, but looking at a focus wise of like engaging people via text, because that is, I mean, that ultimately a phone is about calling and texting more than it is even surfing the internet or surfing the web. But I mean, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of engagement. So many stats just show the level of engagement through text. Like, what does the text message SMS website, I mean, space look like right now?
I'm sure that's pretty. I'm sure that's going to increase dramatically. Distributor programs are huge. Being able to the calls and text apparatus, because I think in the end, what a lot of this goes back to, it goes back to data. Being able to identify who your voters are, who your supporters are, your tier 1, tier 2s. The interesting thing is I think it's going to be challenging to do persuasion. Like, how are these persuasion campaigns going to look like, outside in the digital space? Because a lot of them are usually done either through your calls or, in some cases in mail. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how, the investment that goes into distributed into the calls and text. Because I know, at least from coming from Tom's campaign, we have put a great deal of resources, do that. And then also, how do you organize volunteers through that, with the use of calls and text? But a lot of that also comes from data. If you can't have in-person live events, how do you even collect that information? What sources of information are you going to get to be able to identify people? And so just to be able to ramp those type of methods to be where they're actually effective.
And I'm going to chime in here too, Cameron. I think, Abdul, like, the points you made are definitely like right on. I think this cycle will be a test case for how campaigns play out in years to come, because like you said, persuasion versus turnout. What are the messages that people will actually look at on their phones that will activate them to get up and do something, or to go from one candidate to the other? Typically, it's images that we see, or it's a door knock, or it's how many touches with a mail piece that people get. But how do we actually optimize that in the digital space and the digital platform via text message? Because we know people are looking at their phones, right? Like, people are more likely to answer a text message than to answer a phone call, particularly from a number that they don't know. Although there are ways to call people from an area code that based upon where they live. But I think what's happening now because of coronavirus will absolutely influence, the midterms, and then it'll influence the next presidential, and so on and so on. And so I think this will be definitely a test case, particularly for the persuasion universe, on how messages are crafted and created. And, you can do picture messages as well, but does everyone have a smartphone? So then you get into a lot of those things about what will become salient to the audiences, and then how will that inform what campaigns do in the future?
Interesting. I brought up the text, obviously, through some of the work that I do outside of this, and I was just on a text message with Bonham. What's this guy's name? I always forget it. From Bonenbo. I'm saying his name wrong, but he hosts the Cleveland Hustles. Like, he's a well-known digital marketer, but he's really big on text. And he just gave, literally, it was a couple hours ago, and gave a great, just kind of going through all the metrics of text. For Hub Project, like, Ruiyong, is that also a space that you are looking as equally as just the creative of social and email and so forth? Like, how are you guys getting creative with texting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one area we're definitely trying to expand on now that we're all social distancing. I think, you know, to the example of our bus tour that's now a virtual town hall series, we're still using texting in a similar way where, you know, beforehand, if you were having a bus stop, you would hustle people or text them in some other way to make sure that they're attending your event. I think there's still a similar type of text SMS based follow-up from people who've signed up to, you know, attend your Zoom or your Facebook Live or whatever that might be. So I think in a lot of ways that's still very similar. But I think we're also trying to figure out new ways that we can use SMS, since we know a lot of people are spending a lot of time on their phones now. The one thing that I'll note that is a interesting, and I'm sure has sort of specific demographic implications of people who are able to like work from home and social distance versus those who are not, is that we're actually also seeing media consumption on desktops growing at a higher rate too, because a lot of people are, you know, have their computers on a little more than they used to.
You're seeing that in the data?
Yeah, just in terms of like how much inventory is available and all of that. So it's an interesting little data point, and obviously depends on the targets of your campaign and all of that. But that's been also interesting to, you know, not forget about desktop, even though it's a little outmoded, outdated.
It is. I'm a sucker for desktop. I consume more. I try to stay off my phone from any video. Like I realize I can't judge how I market like hip politics. I work at a digital agency and I still want to do things that are like, because I'm not on my phone like to consume as much, and it's like I'm going against everything I know and advise other people to do. But it's like I enjoy the desktop or TV experience. That's me personally. I'm curious, real quick. I have there's a couple quick questions I wanted to get some round robins. First, like, what's the most creative digital thing you've seen post COVID? Like in terms of from a campaign, advertising. I should have asked this in advance so you could have had one, but maybe it's even better because like I want to make sure you guys know, like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What's some creative things? It doesn't even need necessarily even be in the political space. That'd be great if it is, but I'm curious, what's like one of the more creative things or most creative thing you can think of that you've seen this is a question for everybody.
You know, I'll say the thing that has had me most excited over the last couple weeks, and I'm still kind of coming down from the last one, was these DJ battles. Producer battles are they're so dope. Like, it just like captures everything about like content that is so cool, and like all of the possibilities of like the just like DIY component to it. Like on the last one, like RZA, who's like,
can I get his stuff together? What is
like 50 years old? Like,
really?
Yeah, it's like such a democratic like spirit to that of like, oh, RZA doesn't know how to do this either. And then, like, there's a nostalgic component to it. It's just really cool. Like, and I think like even just thinking about the value of like seeing community in that way, like even what D Nice did to do the first one, like you're in this like session and you're seeing, oh man, like Rihanna's in here and T.I.'s in here and Joe Biden's in here with some bot or something, like, and it's just like, it's just very cool. Like, it's just a different level of like community than I've ever really experienced in anything like a IG Live, you know? And so that will get old too, but I think that's a really cool, like, kind of innovation that I've never seen that, you know, people will obviously use to inform like future, you know, ideas around digital content.
Anybody else? What are some, I'm curious, other people, some of the most creative?
I mean, yeah, he stole mine. I was gonna say Club Quarantine was definitely.
Oh, you mean Tory Lanez?
No, DJ D Nice, but
Tory Lanez out here. Tory Lanez for the hip hop community. Tory Lanez out here with Quarantine Radio. Oh, that's Quarantine Radio. That's not Club.
Right.
Club,
but
very
doing
different.
the most.
Very, very
yeah.
different. Very different.
But yeah, no, D Nice Club Quarantine has been amazing. And just, you know, that like you were just saying, that community aspect, just bringing people together. And I guess that is somewhat of a political answer because Bernie, Joe, everybody has been in that club quarantine. It's been great. But yeah, that's been the most creative thing for me.
Something that I saw that was really dope, it was more so, I think, just really thoughtful and innovative was the NAACP Youth Division did a Don't Rush challenge for census. I don't know if anybody saw it, but it was really cute. Well, I had to say cute.
It's called Don't Rush. Oh, the Don't Rush. Dun, 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 dun.
And they like, you know, usually it was with like the makeup brush, but they used the census envelope. And then when they backed it up, you saw their little, not little, I'm sorry, the little, but you know, there it was, I thought it was really powerful.
They should have got, why did that blow up big? Well, I guess everybody's doing Don't Rush for another reason, so.
I think everyone is trying, like everyone needs a reason to dress up and be cute. Everyone is in their house, in house shoes, you know, half of us might have on pajamas right now. You would never know because you only see the top part of us.
Oh, I dressed up for this. I got jeans on. I dressed up for this. Normally, I'm not going to front. David, the one we did, I had pajama pants on. But I dressed up for y'all. I respect y'all. Abdul, what's the most creative thing you've seen?
Nah, they already said it. The club quarantine, like that stuff has been off the chain. Just, you know, as an old school hip hop head, you know, just seeing that and being able to, you know, don't feel as trapped inside. You know, that's been some interesting content to be entertained by during this. Like I've enjoyed it. You know, and folks, a lot of folks just do a lot of shorts digitally on various stuff, and those are some other things that I like to watch that I think are cool, that kind of make this time a little more entertaining if you don't want to sit there and just binge watch Ozark or, you know, Tiger King.
I watched the entire season the last 2 weeks. I don't know where I've been for 3 years. Crystal, what's the most, I'm curious, what's the most creative thing you?
I think what folks have stated definitely has been creative. But
give me another one. You gotta give me another one.
Okay, TikTok. I was never a TikTok person before coronavirus, and I've enjoyed like watching people do their little videos. I mean, you can do I'm not gonna say it's the same platform as Instagram and Facebook because it's clearly not, but it just seems to get many more touches than these other platforms. And maybe I don't know the back end of it, but I like how folks are creating these short, you know, videos about, it could be something funny. I usually watch it for laughs, or, you know, cooking, showing you all the ingredients they're putting in and then the finished product, or just whatever, honestly. But I feel like TikTok has definitely blown up over the last like 3 to 4 weeks during Corona. Not that it wasn't big, it was big.
Correction, TikTok was the most downloaded social media app of 2019.
Okay, well, that's right. But I mean, like, it definitely
Ruiyong's laughing.
It was big among young folks, younger people, because I'm still young, but like, you get what I'm saying?
We were in college together.
No, 1 year. Let's be clear. That's not. Yeah, but TikTok.
No, I feel you. Ruiyong, what's the most creative thing you've seen? You see a lot.
Yeah, you know, and it all kind of blurs together. But I mean, one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is like how to we've been doing a lot of shoots like over Zoom or over Hangouts or whatever to figure out the content that we can show as ads on digital and on TV. And I forget who it was. I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find who made it, but they made an ad that used Zoom, I think, in an interesting way, because it's easy to just have like that person be talking and have that be 15 or 30 seconds. But this one was used sort of like a contrast or like call and response, where they just had Trump say things or ask questions, and then had like the response come from like an epidemiologist or something about like the actual things that happen.
Hold on, who did this again?
I couldn't remember, but I'll try to send it around if I do remember what it was. But it was like an effective ad because there was more of a dynamic aspect to it rather than just someone talking at the
Speaking
screen.
to camera, yeah. For me, did I get I think I got it ready. For me, the most creative thing I've seen is I don't know if I think this might have been 2 weeks, because that's another thing. Time is, I don't even know what today is, but I think it's Thursday. I think it's Thursday because we're on. But Eric, it must have been about 2 weeks ago. Erykah Badu did a $2 concert. I don't know. Did anybody else catch that? Did anybody pay the $2? So I paid. Steve, you paid the $2. I paid the $2 just. I love Erykah Badu, but I would have probably skipped it. But it was more so research, because I was like, why am I paying $2? I'll pay the $2 just to see what it is. That shit was wild. Like, one, she must have like a whole complex, because she did, I'm not sure what the platform was, but I need to figure it out so we can recommend it to other clients, or find a way to integrate, because she did something where it was like, and I watched it on mobile too. So you're seeing a screen. It's kind of like a Zoom platform, but she's doing a performance. She had multiple rooms. She had her different bands in like multicolored rooms. And she was like, all right, I'm going to this room. And then the camera would go to that room and they're like playing and so forth. But there was a chat room. There's a full chat room. There's a place where you could stream all her music and go get it on Spotify. There's a place like you could click and you could see merchandise, or you could click on merchandise. You could see her live Twitter feed. It was like a fully interactive screen, both in like, I just to experience it, I watched it both on, like, I tried it on my phone to see what it looked like. And then I also looked on the desktop. And then also I looked on my over the top, like streamed it through my TV, just trying to see what the interface. And it was like, she's still in maybe 70% of the screen, but there was just a very active, like side and bottom, like active engagement. She's going to like she's singing different songs in different rooms. She had like a juggler on for a second as like a in between. It was very interesting. I'm pretty sure if anybody had COVID, they all got it for like shooting that joint. Because even though they were distant, she was jumping around touching everybody. But overall, like just the experience of like, oh, a $2 live stream. Because I think moving forward, especially like me, with my concern being hip hop and being in that community, like the live performance is everything. It's like so much of the culture. And now that also being so much of the financial backbone of like for hip hop artists and hip hop industry. And that people need to figure out a way like to monetize their concerts, because these free concerts are only going to last but so long before the artist's not going to want to do it, because they want to make sure their art and their songs are presented the right way. B, that's just like, if I'm giving it away for free, are people ever going to go back to pay to see me? Like that's a real calculation that's being had. And then I would say the last part about it is that like people might get tired of it. So it's like I already feel like there's a little virtual fatigue that I'm starting to have, and I know other people's are having. I haven't seen the data on that, if we've already hit that kind of peak of that, but I'm gonna tune into the versus battles and a few things that I like, but it's like now, just because I see you get live alerts, it actually annoys me. I'm like, why are you going live? Like, I know you're not doing shit, but
people going live now, it's like a little bit overwhelming. So I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Exactly. What were you gonna say, Steve?
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think it'll be interesting in the coming months and years to see how these major festival and sort of convening brands figure out how to survive. You know, I was thinking about, we've been down to Austin for South by Southwest for the last 4 years, and this year, 3 days before, you know, the festival is supposed to go off, they cancel it. And the estimates of the amount of money they've lost are somewhere around $350 million. You see Coachella is pushing back, you know, Governor's Ball. These are multi-million-dollar productions.
Million close, yeah. And when you, that's funny you mentioned that. There's a great article, and I'll link it in the YouTube comments. There's a great article today. It was on Variety, and just Variety was talking about like the the risks and opportunities in the media and live entertainment space, and how all these private equity, like a lot of the AEGs and the Live Nations and stuff are owned by like, or have large private equity investments and venture capital investments who are all about making money. And it's like, there's going to be a lot of shift in that industry over the next 18 to 24 months as people are losing money and figuring out who's worth what. And then I think that the shift to the digital concert space, the digital virtual conference, I know we're exploring those types of things right now for different clients and organizations. Like, what does a virtual conference and a virtual concert look like? So I think there's just so much innovation that's going to happen. But we're coming up on time. I want to end in one last like kind of feel good question, something I'm curious everybody. And then also please use this as an opportunity to like, if you could please introduce just introduce yourself to the audience, your name, your organization, and position. And also if there's any website, social media, or campaigns, anything you want to push, please use that time. But my question to everybody, music, I've gone kind of in phases with music, like, because I listen to music a lot, like driving to and from work. But now that I'm not driving anywhere, I have started taking a couple of drives. I'm gonna take a drive after this for like 30 minutes just to go and I get out the car, I just need to whip my whip. But whip my whip, that's funny. But the music that's been getting me through is like, there was a time where I was listening to some really deep, like, I just want to think music. I'm not gonna lie, I was listening to all like turn up music last week just because I was like, I want to feel like I'm outside, but I'm not outside. But that was just the music. But I'm curious to like whether it's a song, whether it's a playlist, whether it's an album. I'm just like either more so song or album. But if you have a really good public playlist that everyone knows about, go to that too. But what music has been getting you through this time? Again, this also use this as a time to like introduce yourself as well. This for everybody.
I'll go because I have to jump. So thank you, Kim, for inviting me. Crystal Knight, Priorities USA political director. Our website is www.priorities.org. And the music that's been getting me through is actually Afro beats. I've been listening to a lot of Afro beats, just a mix like general on Pandora. I have a mix on my own like Apple Music. So I don't have a particular channel or particular artist. I definitely like Burna Boy, like techno, like Wizkid. I mean the big name ones, obviously, but Afrobeat is smooth and it's easy. So that's my music of choice.
Anybody else who can? David, you look like
I'm David Hudson from the Motion Picture Association. Our website is motionpictures.org. I have been listening pretty much on repeat to the relatively new Childish Gambino album.
Is it good?
It's really good. It's a lot better than I expected. I've been a little lukewarm on his stuff in the past, but this new album is really good. I still don't know the actual name of my favorite song because they're almost all like number the time. So I don't know the actual track name, but that whole album is excellent.
Hey, this is Ruiyong Chen at the Hub. I don't.
Is it the Hub or the Hub Project?
The Hub Project. You're right. It's the Hub Project.
I'm trying to keep you on brand. I'm trying to keep.
Yes, I appreciate that. I guess the one thing I would plug is that we started a daily coronavirus tracking poll that's a resource for everyone to use called Navigating Coronavirus. Definitely urge you to check it out at navigatorresearch.org. The thing I've been listening to a lot is the new Dua Lipa album. It's got bops. I listen to it while I'm cooking, so it's great.
It's got bops. I'm using that. Is that what the kids are saying these days?
You know, I don't know that anyone is saying it, so.
Enchanted, what you listening to?
My name is Enchanta Jackson, and I've honestly been listening to Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd. It got me through some times when I was a teenager, and I feel like maybe I'm going back because I'm not sure what's about to happen. with this crisis. But yeah, so I am a consultant. I started a firm, Bloom LLC, and I help justice seekers and power builders win campaigns using digital strategies that center Black folks in wellness. So yeah, you can contact me at enchantajackson.com or enchantajackson@gmail.com.
Steve, what you listening to, man?
You guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm you know, an entrepreneur really through and through, man, at my heart. And it's tough, man, during these times where you can't go out and really beat the pavement, running a business and trying to keep people inspired and motivated. So I'm always on some, you know, Jeezy, you know, Thug Motivation 101 or Reasonable Doubt or
You know, Jeezy just dropped a new joint, new little disc.
Oh, but it's not.
It wasn't that, but it was. I mean, he had 2 songs in there. I was like,
yeah, I'll give it a listen. But Jeezy's been hurting my heart over the last couple releases, man. But I'm always on anything, man. It just keeps me motivated, man, and moving and inspired to continue to try to create and try to go get it and build. So Ghost Note is a digital creative agency. I mentioned that my co-founders and I, our co-partners and I started about 7 years ago. We're based in Washington, D.C. Have a team of about 20 creatives, strategists, designers, developers, building out a video team. Been fortunate to work with a lot of brands, Facebook and Google and Nissan, in addition to a good deal of political work. So our website's ghostnoteagency.com, and you can touch base with us there.
You're there on social too. I would highly suggest keeping you motivated, Hustle and Motivate, Nipsey Hussle, Victory Lap.
There you go.
Man, Cam, you took mine.
Oh, that was your song?
That was one of mine. I had the whole Victory
go
Lap.
for it. No, that's my jam.
Yeah. No, see, what's been getting me through? So it's been three primarily artists that I've been listening to right now. That Untrapped by Yo Gotti, that one is dope. That I Am I Was, that 21 Savage. Yeah, but that's like I recently came in at 20. That was kind of my he was kind of my get through the campaign grind. And then that Nipsey, that Victory Lap, just, you know, I'm from LA originally, so I went to Crenshaw High School, so that whole LA dynamic, I'm still hurting that he's not with us during these times, because his voice was becoming real powerful, and I would have loved to see what he was going to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm Abdul Henderson. I was the deputy campaign manager for Tom Steyer. I was going to make my way back towards the East Coast, but then the coronavirus put everything on hold. So right now I'm just looking to do some collaborations with some folks, see how we can connect and do some good things in these interesting times. So yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Well, thank you to everybody. Again, thank you guys for joining us. This has been a good conversation. No, not good. Great conversation. I learned something. I was able to connect with some people and connect with you all. We hopefully be able to put some more positive, truthful information out into the ether, into the world. Thank you guys for participating. Again, this is meant to be a convening of people. That's kind of what my job and God has put on me, to be a connector and a convener of people and a communicator. So if there's anything or any projects or people need to talk or any questions, that we all are connected via email. We're all in an email that started this also. If you need to connect with anybody, feel free. The idea of having this, the also idea of having like a cultural convo at a happy hour, digital happy hour, is that you go to happy hours, you go to these events because like, oh, I know I'm going to meet quality people there because of who's throwing it or who introduces me. And so that was kind of the idea of this, is like, I want to get good people meeting other good people and having good conversation. The one song that has also been getting me through And it's because of the chorus and actually because of the two, Jay-Z and Beyonce. If you guys go back and listen to their collab album, they have a song called Nice, produced by Pharrell. He's on the song too, but it's Jay-Z and Beyonce. Beyonce snaps. Like I'm pretty sure she didn't write these raps. Snaps. But the hook goes, I can do anything. Hell no, like I can do anything. Like that chant and that mantra of I could do anything, like has been getting me through. Like I think that album came out like a year and a half, 2018 now. So it's been almost 2 years. But that song has been on ultra constant repeat. Like it's called Nice, Jay-Z, Beyonce collab album. Like I would highly suggest that. Again, and who I am, I'm Cameron Trimble, the founder of Hip Politics, co-host of the Hip Politics podcast. You can follow, you can get to our website, hippolitics.org. You really can follow us on social media, both Hip Politics Podcast and Hip Politics News on Instagram and Twitter. We're all over Facebook. Big thing here, if you're watching this, you're probably seeing this on YouTube.com/Hip Politics. We got some of our plans have changed, but we're still going to be doing some convenings of people, connecting with campaigns, connecting with really dope people, both in the hip hop and political space. So I encourage everyone who's hearing this and sees this to engage with the platform. If there's topics or people you want us to talk to or see, please just shoot me a message, DM me, anyway, get me in contact, because I probably can get them on, or at least I know somebody who knows somebody. But I want to thank all of my panelists, everybody, all my happy hour guests for coming out. I appreciate it. I have my one little cup because I do have mad work to do after this. So I couldn't be out here too tipsy, but so this is one of those professional happy hours. But this is, like I said, informative conversation. The digital landscape and the digital spaces is something people kind of think they know, but they don't really know. And I know you guys, if anybody's watching this, these are experts and people you should either be hiring or looking for information from. But with that, this is another edition of the Culture Convo, the Hip Politics Digital Happy Hour. This originally started Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. That was too much. Then this was Tuesday, Thursdays. Again, that's too much because I got a job too. So this is going down to once a week now. And it's also because of this is gonna last way longer than I thought. I was like, oh, I could do this for a couple of weeks because we might be locked down till June. I'm not going back to the office till June, regardless. So I need to make something that's manageable. So we got another one coming up next week, and we got some great, also check out the podcast. We had Jamie Harrison on this week. It's on YouTube. It's on all podcasting streaming platforms. Jamie Harrison, the United States Senator, Democratic candidate. I'm sorry, the United States Senate candidate, Democratic Senate candidate down in South Carolina. Great brother. We had a really insightful conversation with him. That's out live. Next week, we've got an even doper conversation coming out with the comedy legend TK Kirkland that I shot literally right before the coronavirus. So that's why if you see us, we're close. It was pre-corona, but that's coming out next week. So check into the podcast. But again, thank you, everybody. Thanks for this. Thanks for keeping these conversations going. And with that, we are out, and I am stopping the live stream. I'm trying to come up with like a going out thing. Like, do I do this? Do I do that? I'm just gonna do something. This is